Hi there, and thank you for joining us on the Overcomers Overcoming podcast. We feature those who are in the process of overcoming or have overcome any type of life encounter, life obstacle that at the time seemed to be almost insurmountable. With this podcast, we have three objectives in mind. Our first objective is we want you to know with a confident resolve you are not alone. We want to work with you. We want you to know there are others who are working with you, who want to help you through whatever you are encountering, and together we will get through whatever you're experiencing.
Our second objective is there are multiple options for any life encounter you are facing. We want to help you develop a resolve that there are various options and solutions to any life dilemma.
Our third objective is to help you with critical thinking skills. If you're encountering something that was possibly a decision you made sometime in the past, and if you had the opportunity for a life redo, you would make a different decision. We want to help you with those critical thinking skills that can help you make an informed decision and not encounter what you're going through at the moment. We are the Cooper Culture, a veteran-owned business. We work with business personnel and families to develop and sustain connected relationship cultures within their families and organizations. That type organization is one where people feel wanted, appreciated, and genuinely a part of that organization. I'm with my wife and business partner, Marty, who has helped me facilitate this podcast. Today we feature Andrew Matthews, who discusses resilience. Topic relates to anyone who can develop a great mindset of resistance, that is to overcome anything of the past, anything of the culture that might create in a person any limiting beliefs, doubts about themselves, anything of that nature. We do know through life experience, our culture, our family upbringing, various events in our life can bring about resilience in a positive way, but also can create limiting beliefs. How do we develop the resistance to overcome and lead a more productive life? Marty, what are some takeaways our listeners can gain from Andrew?
Ron, as you said, Andrew spoke on resilience, which is the ability to endure and quickly recover from challenges. His life story serves as an example of which we all can learn.
He has a great life story. Let's listen and learn together. Andrew, it is great to have you with us. Our listeners might be very interested in knowing we are just about 12 hours, actually a little more than 12 hours apart. You are talking to us from the western part of Australia, and we're talking to our listeners from Maryland. And so through technology, we're able to be right beside each other. But Andrew, you've got a great life story. Resilience is one part of it, but you've got a great attitude that we frequently find what we're looking for. And in the context of positive or negative, if we're looking for positive, we'll find it. And we want to emphasize the positive part of that, what we're looking for. But Andrew, our listeners are going to be very interested in exploring with you your life journey and resilience and things you've learned through life. So great to be with you, Andrew. Good to have you.
Ron and Marty, I'm honored to be here. I admire what you're doing and I'm inspired by your mission. You know, when I was 25, I made a shocking discovery. I discovered that the happiest people I knew had bigger problems than me. And that made no sense because I thought that when my life got easier, I would get happier. And, you know, a lot of our listeners have had tough times as children and difficult upbringings. I didn't. I had loving parents. And so at 25, I realized that I had no excuse, but I had to find out why it was that some of my friends had a better attitude than me, and how could I think like the happy people. And I began reading a lot of books, maybe over 200 books on success and the subconscious and mindset and attitude. A lot of them had good information, but a lot of them were really boring. And certainly they didn't have cartoons in them. And I'm a cartoonist. And I also like simple messages. So I wrote this book, Being Happy, and it was promptly rejected by 17 publishers. But publisher number 18 sold 3 million copies. And that took me on a journey in the world, across the States and across Europe and all over Asia, where I would be sharing this tips from my book. I guess I was writing a self-help book for people who hate self-help books. And that led to other books about enjoying your work. And I did so that was Follow Your Heart. During the GFC, the financial crisis, I did a book called Happiness in Hard Times. And my most recent book is called Bouncing Back. I figure that most of us are bouncing back from something, even if it's eating too much or spending too much, or bouncing back from not getting that promotion that we thought was ours, or bouncing back from losing a loved one. And so a theme of what we talk about today could be talking about how it is that we bounce back, and what is it that resilient people do.
I think that's exactly where we want to go. As you look back and think back on life, do you know what it was that was the cause of your bad attitude, or do you feel you were born that way? And then I would ask you also, what was the turning point that helped your attitude transform from bad to good?
Yeah, well, I mean, it would be romantic if, if my attitude was absolutely terrible and I was, but it wasn't nearly as good as it could have been. So here's what I remember from even when I was a teenager. And the theme of this for me, Ron and Marty, was that I just felt I had no excuse. So I was probably more like the spoiled kid, I think. But I remember as a teenager, when I started high school, I was the smallest kid in the school, smaller than all the boys, smaller than all the girls, by about a foot, it was. And I used to hate it. I came home and said to my mother, everyone makes fun of me. They say your school bag is bigger than you, and all of that stuff that they say. And I said, I just hate it. And my mother said, well, wait until next year. Next year, there'll be kids that are, another 100 kids come to school. There'll be some that are smaller than you. So I waited a year, and next year I was still the smallest kid in the school. And I went home and said the same thing to my mum. I hate it. This is terrible. And everyone makes fun of me. She said, well, wait another year. So I waited, and then I'm in third year high school, and I am still the smallest kid in the entire school. I go home and say to my mum, I hate this. And that's when she gave some advice that began to sink in, but not totally. And that was that in life, you change what you can and you accept what you can't change. And she said, there's a lot of stuff you can change. You can change your friends, you can change your work ethic, you can, change your attitude. But, this is it. This is how big you are. And so that sowed a seed, but obviously not enough. But then I needed to have that experience when I was 25, when I realized that my life might be a third over and it's not as good as I thought it was going to be. And I kind of did a review of how am I doing? Romance, not very well, Am I very successful? Not really. International travel, not happening. All this sort of stuff. And I can actually name that. It was the 19th of October, 1983. I made a decision. I'm going to see my life differently from today. When opportunities come, I will embrace them. I will look at people differently. I will be more forgiving of myself. And my life changed on that day. Not totally, but I could see where the trajectory of my life began to change. And so that is one thing I've learned, that when you get to that point where you say, no longer can I be like I've been, and this is what I'm going to do now, when you move, the universe moves too.
Very interesting. You actually remember the date that I'm going to say the infamous date of October 19th. Did you, on your own, in the quietness of a space, make this decision, or did someone help you make a decision? I'm curious about what the mechanics were.
There was no dramatic intervention. No, it was just me. I just had been plodding along and thinking life is going to get better, and I thought I'm 25 now, and what I'm doing isn't working very well. And here's the interesting thing. 2 days later, I was listening to a radio program that I never listened to, and I heard about a course that was available on goal setting and relaxation, meditation, being a more effective human being. And I went to that. But I fully believe that, and that changed my thinking, and that set me on a path of, now I was into personal development. But my understanding very often is that you don't even have to know how your life is going to get better. You make the decision. And when you're committed, then life starts to support you. But when you're just hanging around on the edges and saying, well, if everything works out, no, that's not enough.
I like what you just said, that, yep, you are committed. You made a committed decision that you're going to change. And you made that decision, sounds like pretty much on your own, inspired by some books you read, but you decided that, nope, I'm going to think differently. That's what I'm discerning what you're saying. I'm going to think differently. Was that essentially what it was, Andrew, thinking differently?
That was absolutely it, Ron. I'm going to change my attitude. I have no excuse. And there's people around me. There's people around me that have bounced back from cancer. There's people that are around me that have gone broke. There's people around me that have lost loved ones, and they're handling their life better than I am. So, yeah, no excuse. And that is critical. The power of making a decision. I'm committed to this. And for all of us, whether we're saying, I'm going to make this relationship work, I'm going to make this job that I'm in work for as long as I'm here, I'm going to take my family on this vacation, and I'm going to find a way.
As you think back on yourself and your attributes, your strengths, do you consider yourself now, maybe in hindsight, naturally resilient, or did you have to develop that attitude that I will somehow, some way get better, work through whatever the term may be?
I think I was pretty much like anybody else, that I would be upset and disappointed when things didn't go my way, and would probably brood, and it's not that we are meant to be or should expect ourselves to be leaping about 24 hours a day with happiness, but it's all about the fact that we bounce back. And I guess if I'm to isolate three things that I've learned and are helpful for our listeners, when we are disappointed or when we come through disaster, the first one is acceptance. And that goes back to what my mum said. You accept where you are. We might say, I didn't want to be here. It's not like I want to be here, but this is where I am, and this is this is what I do. I mean, one of the most beautiful stories of acceptance is the one of Thomas Edison, when in 1914 his entire factory was burning down, 10 buildings, like flames 8 stories high. I don't know, maybe there's a dozen fire departments there fighting these flames, and he arrives when the flames are at their highest, green, you know, the chemicals are burning, and he arrives with his son, and he says to his son, "Go get your mother, tell her she'll never see a fire like this again." And it's not that you want the fire, but that's what you've got. And you know, he said, "Okay, this is where we are," and he rebuilt his factory. But for all of us, it's acceptance is it's not that I want to be here, but this is what I've got, and now I move on to what I want.
Well, you've got a great attitude, and I really like that. And for our listeners, it sounds as if you're saying, again, you assess those things over which you do have control and what you don't have control. And I'll just make a very elementary example. I can't control what you, the person I'm speaking to, may think of me, but I do have control over what my thoughts are, whether I accept what you think of me, particularly if you say something negative to or about me. Is that part of a resilient thought process?
Absolutely, Ron. That we're saying, and in addition to that, we find what we look for.
Yes.
You know, if you look for faults in your boyfriend or your job or your house or your family, you find them. If you look for good things, you find them. So it's very much also about the questions that we ask ourselves. What do I like about my life right now? What are the good things? What am I learning? What am I getting better at? What are the skills I'm developing? What are the good things that I've learned from my parents? And how is my wife or my husband helping me? We find what we look for.
That's just great. And I know it to be, Marty and I both know it to be truth, that you always find what you're looking for because it's a mindset. And the positive, when you're looking for it, you will find it. And then being resilient and having the ability to bounce back, I need to ask you, is that just an attitude, a mindset that even though I don't know how I will recover from or move forward, if the attitude is somehow, some way, I'll learn how to do it, is that a part of the resilient mindset?
That's the start of it. Understanding that I've got a cartoon in Bouncing Back where there's a guy climbing a mountain and he's sweating, and even his dog is sweating. And the caption to the cartoon is, "What you thought was breaking you is probably making you." And that's the foundation to all of this, that we understand that very often what we thought were disasters are not. You know, we fall in love with somebody and we think this is my forever partner, and they dump us. And we think, oh, the world is over, this is terrible. And then we meet them 10 years later and we think, I dodged a bullet, you know. So things that we think were disasters are very often not disasters. And so often we get bumped off a plane and we think this is terrible, and, you know, this is a waste of time, and we've got to wait 3 hours for our next flight. We get on the next flight, we meet someone that just changes our whole perspective and becomes a lifelong friend. Or, you know, we don't get that job that we thought we were going to get. So I mean, as a foundation, we understand that, you know, we never know what's good and what's not when it's happening. We don't know what that's doing for us. So that's one thing. We have that mindset that we say, okay, I'm going to get through this, and I'm not exactly sure how. Another key to resilience is saying, okay, I'm going to deal with life one day at a time, which is all we can do. Here's a story I've sometimes shared. If you were to get a bag and fill it with everything you need to eat in the next 5 years and everything that you might wear in the next 5 years, and you put it all in this big sack and you carry it around on your back. And we say, how would you get on? Well, not very well. I mean, eventually you would collapse because you're not designed to carry that kind of load. But if you were to get a bit of paper and make a list of everything that you need to do in the next 5 years and everything that could go wrong in the next 5 years, we say, how would you do with that? You would also collapse. You'd go nuts because we're not designed to carry that kind of load. But we're perfectly designed to deal with 24 hours. We can make it to bedtime. And when it's too tough to get to bedtime, we say, I will deal with the next 5 minutes. It's like if you're climbing a mountain and you get stuck on a ledge, then all of your attention goes into just dealing with this ledge. This is all I'm going to deal with. Focus on what I can fix right now, and we say tomorrow can take care of itself.
I want to ask you somewhat personal, just to see if you might be willing to share maybe something notable that has in adversity in your life, and you bounce back from that. Maybe at the time you were going through it, you're thinking, oh man, I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to get through this. But as you think back on it, there was a good life lesson you learned from that. Can you think of anything that fits that category?
Yeah, I can give you one. My wife, Julie, is an extraordinary lady. Julie is my publisher, and Julie became my publisher in 95. And she's the reason that my books are in 48 languages. She's a force of nature. When just before Julie and I were married, Julie had 2 children. Her son, Michael, now my stepson, was in a serious car accident. And Michael suffered head injuries. The roof was torn. He hit a truck. The roof was torn off his car. And he was raced to hospital at 3 o'clock on a Monday. And at 6 o'clock, 4 doctors came to us and they said, your son is brain dead. They said, we'd like to take his organs. And Julie, as his mother, said, you need to give me some time. And she went away from the meeting and she came back and she said, surely there's something that you can do. My job is to save my son. And they said, well, his brain is swelling inside his skull and it's going to kill him. And she said, well, can you relieve the pressure to maybe keep him alive? And they said, well, it's not going to help him in the long term because his lungs are going to collapse at some time tonight. And she said, well, can you do it anyway? So reluctantly, the doctors operated and they cut a piece away from Michael's skull. And at 11 o'clock, the 4 doctors came back to see us. This time they had a form to sign and they said, his lungs have collapsed like we told you they would. We would like to harvest his organs. He can help a lot of people. And Julie said, give him 3 days, just keep him alive. And that was the Monday. At midday on the Thursday, we met with a priest and all of the friends and family at the hospital, and they switched off the respirator and Michael breathed.
Oh, God.
And Michael survived, severely brain injured, and it's been 25 years of rehabilitation. Michael couldn't speak, he couldn't walk, he couldn't do almost anything, but he was paralyzed all down his right side. But Michael has bounced back to the point where he now lives in an apartment 2 minutes away from our home, and he can cook and he can clean and he can speak in a fashion. And people will say to Julie, "How do you deal with having a severely disabled son?" And Julie will say, "I still have him,
Yes.
and he's a kind soul, and he's caring, and he's generous." And other people are saying, "Well, the boys that he went to school with, they're now lawyers and tennis coaches and electricians." And Julia says, "I still have him." So Julie focuses on what she has, and I've learned to continue to focus on what we have. And so it's a story of gratitude and persistence, and just living every day the best way we can.
How can we develop the attribute of resilience? How can we learn how to bounce back? How can we adapt ourselves best to those who have experienced adversity, have experienced a bounce back through resilience, but yet need someone to walk beside them to perhaps regain their confidence? That is all a part of what we do in the Cooper culture by developing harmony at home, harmony in the workplace, harmony at church. Let's work together to create that type of harmony in bounce back resilience with people. Contact us at thecooperculture.com or Ron at thecooperculture.com or Marty, M-A-R-T-Y, at thecooperculture.com. Let's schedule a 30-minute complimentary session where we can collaborate with each other, get to know each other, and learn how we can work with you to help you develop a culture of harmony where together we work through any challenges, any life encounters we have. What a great attitude that at least I have my son, and he is a great story of recovery. Andrew, is it fair to say that there's something good in whatever adversity we're facing? And I'm not trying to make a glowing general statement, but is it fair to say, based on your life experience and just who you are, that irrespective of what you're going through, however bad you may think it is, there's something good, something positive in what you're going through? We may have to look hard to find it, but there will be something positive. Is that a fair statement?
I believe so. And I believe that we can forgive ourselves for not finding it immediately, Sometimes stuff happens and you think, I mean, it's easy to look at things happening for other people and say, well, that divorce was, that really helped him grow up or something. But when you're going through it, you think, this is the last thing I need. But I believe so, that within inconveniences and massive disappointments and disasters, we develop resilience and character. That someone once said, we never want to go through the things that we need to go through to become the people that we want to become. And it's about developing character, I guess. And these character developing things are often not much fun, but we come out the end of it. Our values get realigned, and we figure out, what is it that really matters. And I guess as our world is becoming increasingly kind of crazy and sometimes a little bit flippant, there seems to be a lot of emphasis on personality and not so much on character. And it's character that gets us through.
Oh, you're right on. As you are speaking that, the book, Dr. Willie Jolley wrote a book, many years ago. every setback can be a setup for a comeback. But that's a positive attitude mindset that irrespective of whatever setback I may be experiencing right now, with the right mindset, and I do believe it's surrounding yourself with positive thinking people, and you don't necessarily need hundreds of them, but if you're able to find some positive thinking people together, you will find something positive in whatever setback you're experiencing. And that sounds like that is pretty much characteristic of your life.
Oh, it's certainly my philosophy, and I get inspired by I get readers that write to me, emails, messages. I get inspired by people around me who are so much more courageous and extraordinary than me. Yeah, one of the guys, the men that I've spoken with in different places of the world is a guy called Nick Vujicic, who is a man who was born with no arms and no legs.
Yes, we know him.
Um, and his story of how having tried to drown himself in a bath when he was like a young teenager, and then making the decision, maybe if I stop focusing on what I can't do and I begin to focus on what I can do, that's that is a message for all of us, so I find people like Nick inspiring.
They certainly are, but people like you as well, Andrew, that when we surround ourselves with people who are positive thinkers, I use the term also leaning forward, and people who are thinking positive, and Marty is my partner with that as well, that when we're surrounding ourselves with those kind of people, we are going to overcome anything. And I do believe that through us, we can inspire others to overcome, irrespective of what your attitude may have been sometime in the past. But we can be a catalyst to help transform from what used to be to what can be. And that is a very positive life. And you exemplify that.
Well, thank you, Ron. There's a thought that comes to me that I'd like to share about how we do that, and it is a challenge. And maybe you can share, because I know just a little of your story, and you for a large part of your life, I know, didn't believe that your destiny was greatness.
Yes.
Now, a lot of us can be very down on ourselves, and we're very critical of ourselves, and we might ask the question, how can I even like myself, and do I need to like myself? And we need to like ourselves because we create the life that we feel we deserve. And if I don't like myself, I will stay in a job that I hate. May stay with a partner that treats me badly. I'll let opportunities just slip by because I think, well, my life was never meant to be that good anyway. And maybe I'll just start arguments and upsets with friends and family and colleagues because I'm not even meant to be happy. And so we say, well, how do we come to accept ourselves a little more? I think one thing we can do is make that decision that I don't have to be perfect. Forget, we say one of the things that we can do is we can just get a little photograph of ourselves when we were maybe 3 years old and put it where we can see it. When we were 3 years old and we didn't have all the answers and we were just living life the best way that we knew how. And we put that photo where we can see it every day, and we treat ourselves like we would treat that 3-year-old, because we still don't have all the answers and we are still just living life the best way we know how.
You're right. And I will tell you very briefly a little story about me. There was in my early life, I had a very low confidence. In hindsight, I had a very poor mental health. And it was through four men who are no longer with me, and Marty now. But there were four words that were very powerful They actually never spoke them, but I believed that they did. And those four words are, I believe in you. And when you are around people who genuinely accept you, believe in you, you can overcome, you can achieve virtually anything legal, ethical in life, anything that's honorable. I will tell you that I overcame a very poor mental health of my life, had no confidence at all. And Andrew, if I were now what I was then, I wouldn't be able to speak with you because I would have nothing to say. But I overcame that background largely because of four men who are no longer with us and Marty now, who inspire me to be a better person. But it's a matter of surrounding yourself with the right people. And when you are with people who believe in you, you can achieve virtually anything that you choose to achieve that is honorable. But that's just a part of my life, but your life reflects a lot of the same type things.
Oh, isn't that a wonderful reminder to all of us that we can keep on letting the people that we love and care about, that we believe in them. That's a nice story. And what you're doing now, Ron and Marty, you are doing the same. You're spreading that same message.
And we are through this podcast. And Andrew, on behalf of our listeners, I want to thank you for the life you are leading, the books you are writing, and the speaking tours you are on. You're giving hope. You're inspiring hope, inspiring positive thinking with the people with whom you come in contact. And with that positive thinking, resilience, we can overcome any setback we may be facing or will face, that together, and that's a very operative term for Marty and me, but together we positive thinking people will overcome and achieve. Andrew, thank you so much for your life and your story.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Andrew, this has been great. I'm a listener and I'm just taking in all that you say. So I don't say much, but this has been just so wonderful.
Oh, thank you, Marty. It's lovely it's lovely to look at you. You don't need to speak.
Oh,
She is
thanks.
a very lovely piece of eye candy, we sometimes call it. So
Yes.
I'm very grateful that as of this recording, Marty has been with me for 56 years.
Whoa.
I want to ask you about your books. And we want to promote your book too, but do you have the characters like I see on the front page of your book? Do you have those throughout your book so that it's
Yeah,
kind of a fun book to read?
yes. I have cartoons. My latest book, Bouncing Back, that you see behind me, has 90 cartoons in it. And so it's only like 150 pages or so. And so within there's a cartoon that people can tie to the message. Like, for example, there's one cartoon in there that says happy people focus on what they have, and it's got a happy little guy with one slice of cake. And then the next panel, it says, and unhappy people focus on what's missing, and it's got a very miserable looking fellow with an entire cake minus one slice. And so, people look at that and say, that encapsulates it. I can remember that message because I can remember the cartoon. So it really is that I set out to create books that where people would enjoy, be entertained. I share with other authors. I write books that 12-year-olds can understand. I mean, a lot of my readers might be brain surgeons and bankers, but I want to write simply. I hope to speak simply, and I want my books to feel that someone can dig in at any stage, any point. They can open it and they can read a page or a chapter, and they'll get some helpful advice about, not about forgiving other people or forgiving ourselves, or why it's good to set a goal, or how to enjoy your work when you hate your job. Those are the things that I talk about.
I was thinking about our granddaughter. She's high spectrum. And so I was thinking of, what book, just looking at the title and the subtitles in the book, because she is a fun-loving person and she loves laughter. She loves joking with us and stuff. And so I was thinking if she could read a book with all the characters, she would love it.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, my experience is even a woman wrote to me the other day. She said, my husband, who hates self-help books, picked up your book, Being Happy, from the coffee table and has been quoting you ever since. And so, yeah, that's what I aim to do. I aim to, share fun messages or fun cartoons with helpful messages. And so she would find a book like Being Happy helpful. I mean, Bouncing Back, Follow Your Heart is the book that's a little bit more about career. Now, I don't have a distributor in America at the moment, but all of my books are, years gone by, they were in all the bookstores, but the publishing industry has changed a little bit. But all of my books are on Amazon in hard copy and ebook. So Bouncing Back, Being Happy, your listeners will find them on Amazon. And Bouncing Back and Follow Your Heart, if they like books that are in audible, like audio books with an Australian accent, then we have those too.
I like the one Follow Your Heart because she's 17 and wondering, where does she want to go? What's her sweet spot?
Yes, well, Follow Your Heart is really about finding purpose in your life and work, and understanding that. I mean, one of the things that I think is important to share with people who are thinking about their career is you don't find the perfect job. There's lots of talk these days about following your bliss. But you don't find the perfect job. You find a good job and you put your heart and soul into it and you surprise people and you nurture people and you serve people. And one day you discover that your good job became wonderful.
I believe that.
Right. This has been great. Thank you
Andrew,
so much.
Again, thank you so much on behalf of our listeners. And thank you for adding purpose to people's lives and having the inspiration to think positively. We enjoyed having you.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate having the opportunity to share our and our guests' life's experiences with you.
The Cooper Culture advances organizations to achieve and sustain high retention rates, connected communication, and trust through personality insights and principled leadership. You can contact us at our website, thecooperculture.com, and you can contact us directly at ron@thecooperculture.com or Marty, Marty, at thecooperculture.com. We work with you to help assess aspects of your culture to advance the environment and people to their best performance. We do that through our staff of certified personal performance coaches, leadership trainers, keynote speakers, and DISC personality behavior experts. You can book a speaking engagement directly through our website by contacting us at ron@thecooperculture.com. We look forward to sharing our life experiences with you, some of which are profound, some of which are pretty funny. Some of those life experiences are ones we'll never do that again because we've been through stuff. We truly look forward to working with you, speaking with you, helping advance you in any way that we can.